Good evening, everybody. This is a special announcement of a special podcast. Your two hosts, Heath and State, decided we would go through the January transfer window for Premier League clubs and just give our little insight as to who had a great transfer window, who didn't, who's still on the fence, and yeah, our own general views and if it could be beneficial for the UFPL fans as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy it, and yeah, we'll get cracking. We start off with the letter A. We start off with Arsenal, our friends down at the Emirates. In terms of a transfer window, well, they didn't bring anyone in, and they got rid of a lot of people, which ended up resulting in them cancelling a game or so because they didn't have enough players after releasing Aubameyang on a free. Maitland-Niles, Kolasinac, Chambers all went somewhere, and they didn't have enough players to play all of a sudden, which is an absolute farce. So we don't really need to speak much about that, but other than say, which I think all Arsenal fans will probably agree upon, it wasn't a good transfer window for Arsenal. So I think we should both agree with Arsenal are a thumbs down there.
I'm actually not going to disagree, but I'm not going to necessarily completely agree.
Because it was good to get Aubameyang off, do you think?
I think that was a very good shout because obviously he wasn't playing, and if he was playing, he wasn't exactly scoring. So his influence probably couldn't have been that positive. But I do think that there's one theme that you see throughout a lot of these teams, which we kind of talked about off air before we came on air, is that there's a handful of teams, quite a few teams that didn't do too much. Now, people will go, well, that's a bad transfer window if they haven't bought many players in. But for me, that just tells you how confident they are with the current squad. Now, Arsenal are a great example of that. I think the fact is that they've been able to kind of give Arteta the reins and say, go for it, try, see how it works, give the youngsters a go, see where we are at the end of the season. And right now, they aren't far off fourth, really. They're a couple of points off with games in hand. So all I'm saying to you, I mean, obviously they haven't got Europe to distract them, but if they were to go and finish fourth this season with the players they've got, that's a very successful season. And it might be down to the fact that in January transfer window, they told their players, don't worry, you're in our plans. You've done a good job up until this point. We don't want to be reinforcing. And then the moment Lacazette pulls up with a groin injury and Martinelli breaks his leg or something, then, when they're playing Eddie and Kessie up front every week and getting 0-0s or losing 1-0 week in, week out, then maybe I'll rethink that. But I wouldn't say it was a good window. I don't think it was a bit of a meh window, really. And I think that the proof is in the pudding, given where they finished at the end of the season. We'll find out whether it was overconfidence or just confidence in the squad.
Fair enough. No, I can see that. Arsenal did get also Aubameyang's wages off the wage bill, so probably that was a good thing, I guess, on the money side of things for them. So yeah, fair enough. Next club, Aston Villa. They had a big transfer window, didn't they? Really, if you think about it, some key players coming in: Philip Coutinho, Lucas Digne, Callum Chambers as backup in the defence. But the two big signings: Coutinho on loan and Digne from Everton for 25 million. It's rumored to be.
Who's Dingy? I've never heard of this Dingy.
Lucas Digne.
You mean Luca Din?
Luca Ding. I'm not French. I'm not going to pronounce it that way.
You were going to say I'm not Spanish.
Well, but either way, I'm neither.
I'm not foreign. Why would I speak their language?
Exactly. Luke, it's spelled Digne, and I'm saying Lucas Digne. All right. Bet if I asked him to say my surname correctly, he probably won't get it right either. So he can go sod off. So yeah. But anyway, I'll continue. Coutinho on loan and Digne. I'm gonna keep with that. Digne in the, as well for 25 million from Everton. So a couple of key players that Villa brought in to not just strengthen the squad, but strengthen them their starting 11. And we've already seen the difference Coutinho is making. Your fantasy team's probably seen that difference because it's probably the only one who's scoring points for you at the moment. But yeah, massive couple of signings there. Villa showing intent. I think they've had a very good transfer window. They got rid of no one really of significance. I suppose Matt Target went to Newcastle on loan, but because they brought in somebody, I suppose he was surplus to requirements and he wanted to play games.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm a big fan of Luca Din, and I'm a big fan of Philip Coutinho. But I'm also a big fan, after seeing some of his finishes against Leeds, of Jacob Ramsey. And what I like is they haven't overwhelmed the midfield. They've kind of kept with a good structure, and it looks like Ramsey's still going to get in the team week in, week out, and they can manage his minutes if they need to. But I really like that. That for me is kind of, because again, when you, the good thing for Aston Villa is they're nowhere near relegation at the moment, so they can afford to have players who aren't firing. So Buendia, I'm not too sure exactly how Villa fans would see him, but from an FPL perspective, he's been disappointing.
He wasn't very good for Norwich in the Premier League, and he's shown some flashes again at Villa. But no, he's not. He's not the player for them. He's not the game changer. And yeah, he doesn't score fantasy points either.
And then you could also say that Leon Bailey and Danny Ings both
Bailey
really so
far. Is he ever fit?
Well, that's it. I mean, and again, you could say the same about Ings, right? So you could say that where they, and Ashley Young was another signing in the summer. So basically, what I'm saying is that Aston Villa. I mean, I've got to be honest. When I saw the signings they brought in, I thought, oh, they could be good, but they could also be a disaster. But fair play to them; it's working out, and they have a bounce going on from not only Gerrard but also some of the players. I still think that there's so much more they can do. I mean. Tyrone Mings, they really need to find a way of phasing him out of the team or something, or I don't know, or bringing someone in who's a bit better than him to play alongside him or something. I don't know, because
John Stones would be a good signing if City were
maybe
to let him go. John Stones would be very good next to him. From that's what I'd look at for the summer, because I can't see Stones wanting to stay at City when he's out of favour. Laporte and Diaz there. Nathan Ake's been playing, I think, in front of Stones a couple of times more recently as well. So I think that would be someone I'd be looking at.
To be honest, you never know with Pep. Next season he could be going with Laporte and Stones again, or Diaz and Stones next season. You never know. And have a whole season of two random centre back pairings again, because he's been doing that. But the whole thing is that realistically, the one good thing for Villa fans is that where they lost Grealish and they were worried what they were going to do with the money, they were to their word. They reinvested it, and now they've got a very well-rounded squad. And to be honest, I think I mentioned this in a previous pod, but that was the reason, because after the first game they were so impressive. I think it was against Man United. That's the reason why I played my wild card pretty much, because I brought in Martinez, Din, and Coutinho. So I'm tripled up on Aston Villa at the moment. So yeah, no, I think that was a good window, but it was a stinky summer. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, making up for then. Yeah, fair enough. Brentford, not too much. Obviously, the big news of Brentford was that they went and signed Christian Eriksen, and I don't know if you saw it, but they posted some on, I believe, Twitter today or yesterday, I think, of him playing in a behind closed doors friendly match, and he was seen running, got an assist as well, and that's free hit basically. He's signing Eriksen because obviously didn't have to pay any money for him. Obviously, yeah, they'll be paying him a wage, but I don't think they'll be paying him mass amounts of money. To be fair, in terms of salary, it might be at the moment. Look, you're coming back, pay as you play type thing, or we'll give you a steady basic and give you a bit more appearance bonus maybe or something. It might be incentivized for him, but hopefully, Brentford and Eriksen, see the benefit of that signing. And I think they've got Jonas Lossell on loan, who's a keeper. I think they've brought him in obviously because Raya was injured for so long and didn't really have an adequate enough backup, whereas Lossell's played in the Premiership before. So I think they've not really done much. Two signings, no big outgoings there. So I think it's just a bit of a fair enough. Again, probably happy with what they've got. Got to be happy with where they are in the Premier League at the moment, because they would probably fancy to go down by a few. And at the moment, the 7 points clear of the drop zone at the moment, so they're not in a terrible position.
I think the signing of Eriksen was smart, and I think that even if he doesn't play that much, which I hope he does because he's a good guy, but I think that he'll bring a lot of unity to the dressing room, because he's not, he's quite he comes across as quite a chilled guy who has a lot of experience with Spurs, and will be fairly level-headed with the rest of the Brentford players who all lack a lot of Premier League experience. So I think that if he does play, he offers them creativity that they were really lacking in. So I hope he does play. I look at Brentford and I think he must be a little bit worried. I mean, I know they got a point against Palace. If Eriksen does play and he has an impact, then I think they will be a bit more reassured and that will probably see them through. But if he doesn't, then maybe they'll be going, we could still be in a bit of trouble because of the fact that Burnley still got games in hand. Newcastle is showing form. Everton have just gone and won quite comfortably the other day. Leeds, I doubt, will get relegated. And if Norwich or Watford get points, start picking up more points, I think Brentford are the only ones who look potentially vulnerable just because of their form recently. I know they got a point the other day, but that's the only thing I would say. If I'm a Brentford fan right now, I'd be a little bit twitchy, but Eriksen would have made them feel a lot better. But yeah, I don't think it again, it's like kind of similar as Arsenal. Like I say, I think they're one of the teams that they didn't need to do a huge amount.
Yeah, definitely. Onto a team that probably definitely didn't need to do too much, really, and Brighton, because they're having a great season. Potter's really got them playing well. I mean, if they could score a few more goals, they'd be challenging that fourth spot, which seems to be up for grabs since no one wants to take it by the scruff of the neck at the moment. And Brighton didn't really need to do much in the transfer window. They signed a few players who were loan back, so obviously players for the future in Undav and Kozlowski. I don't know. It might have been a surprise, but I believe he's from up there, up in the tomb. Was the selling of Dan Burn for 13 million to Newcastle. Obviously, we all know Newcastle's problems and whatnot. I guess Brighton must have been happy for him to go. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sold him. I know, they've got the likes of Lewis Dunk, they've got Webster, Veltman, Duffy. They've got plenty of defenders around there, aren't they? Like, fullbacks, Lampert, Cucurella, etc. So I suppose they must have been happy to let him go, because otherwise they'd have brought in a reinforcement or they wouldn't have sold him in the first place.
Brighton's problem was probably making sure they held on to players like Basuma, as an example, or maybe even to a certain extent Lamptey. I'm not too sure exactly his status now after his injury, but he's always been linked to other clubs. But the fact they haven't bought a striker, I know Mopé scored a great goal at the weekend, but I think that Brighton fans will be disappointed.
Well, they did sign one. They just sent him back on loan.
Yeah, but they would be thinking, just like most teams, your West Hams, your Aston Villas, your Brightons, you're having a good season. This is your time to progress and get a striker who could potentially push you further. But they haven't done that, and that's because the Brighton way of going about it is they're a fairly reserved club as in when to spend money. But the fact is they've got a great coach, so I'm sure that I think it's more they're probably trying to put faith in Mopé and Welbeck and a few others and Trossard, McAllister. I know they're not out and out strikers, but they're forward thinking players, and therefore maybe they'll think that they're okay for now, and then maybe in the summer.
Yeah, they're going to be fine for this season, and like I said, I think good transfer window for them because they've not, like I said, lost the key players there.
They'll be frustrated that they haven't got a striker. I guarantee that.
Yeah, but then again, there's loads of clubs that need a striker, so they can join the queue. So to be honest with you, I'd be happy still if I were a Brighton fan. They're performing really well this season, and like I said, it'll all depend on the summer for them. And if they want to try and keep pushing and on and growing, they've got to make sure they keep hold of the gaffer for starters. And then, like I said, then they'll have to definitely look at doing some other business. Burnley, there was just two big moves in terms of Burnley. They got rid of Chris Wood to Newcastle for 25 million. Everyone probably thought, what on earth are they doing? Are they just consigning themselves to relegation? Because Chris Wood's been their talisman now for a number of seasons. Obviously not scoring as many this season, but Burnley have not been good. But then they've done some business. They've brought in Weghorst from Wolfsburg, who's got proven goal scoring, record in the Bundesliga for the last number of seasons. He's a big guy. He's tall. He's strong. He's 6'6" at the end of the day. That's a unit. And I think he's already got an assist. Already sort of shown he's going to cause some problems and give Burnley that impetus up they need. And with Cornet coming back from AFCON. That'll be like another sort of new signing, maybe in a way, getting him back into the fold. And Chris Wood, yeah, I mean, he's obviously done them a great service, but 25 million for him, I don't think that's bad business for them, to be fair. And we'll see what this Weghorst does. Burnley have obviously got it; they're still up against it, but Dyche has picked up a few results more recently, and maybe they're starting to get back to the Burnley of old again. Who knows?
I think Weghorst is a good signing. Not playing that many games during January, Cornet not missing many games is a good thing for them as well. So I think Burnley could be put into the category of, it was a decent window, but again, I'm pretty sure that the Burnley fans will be screaming out going, we needed something a little bit more to really get them over the line. They must be pretty nervous themselves right now, because I know they've got,
see them surviving. I don't see them surviving.
I just think that the results this weekend put them in a position where they haven't been for a long time, which is not only in the relegation zone, but I know they've got games in hand, but it's not going to take them 1 or 2 games. It's going to take them 2 games to get out of relegation right now.
Oh, 3. They're 7 points adrift. They need 3 wins.
3, sorry, yeah. So they're going to need to win. They're going to need to get results in 3 different games and hope that teams above them drop points. So it's now looking quite bleak. But they obviously still have games in hand, and they do have that element of common sense and patience as a club. Like you've never ever seen them panic or anything like that.
No, and
so
Sean Dyche has been there. He's done it. They've been in trouble before. I mean, you still got. You could just look at a few things. I mean, the problem again, they're not scoring goals, but they've conceded the bottom of the table with 14 points this season, and they've only conceded 29 goals. Right? Spurs have conceded 29 goals. West Ham and Man United have both conceded over 30 goals this season so far. So, barring the main sides, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, obviously Wolves have got a good defence, Brighton, and I think Arsenal, barring them, they've got the next best defence in the league. So, they're in like 9th place, but they're not scoring enough goals, which they've got to start doing. But if they can start doing what they used to do, which was winning games 1-0, pipping teams 1-0, keeping it tight, getting a goal by having that sort of, getting the ball direct up to the big man up top, which is what they used to do with Chris Wood. And obviously, I think maybe they were trying to be a bit more of an attractive playing style earlier in the season. Who knows? They're going back to the basics, and they've picked up some points. They need to just turn some of these draws into wins. If they start doing that, then the other teams will start looking over their shoulders a bit more. But if they don't start doing that soon, they're going to be too far adrift for sure. Like you said, they have got a mountain to climb, but anyone can do it. Sean Dyche probably can for them. So we'll see. But not an up or a down sort of transfer window. They've just done a like-for-like signing, brought a new fresh impetus in, hopefully. So time will tell. Chelsea didn't do anything. Got rid of, put some people out on loan, young lads, and didn't bring anyone in. So, I mean, do you think Chelsea would have been disappointed with the fans? Do they need something? I mean, they've got talent. They've obviously off the pace in the Premier League, so they're not at the City level or the Liverpool level, which they were looking like they were going to be at the start of the season.
I'm pretty sure that Chelsea fans would probably say yes, but personally, I don't. I see that they've got a handful of players that you just think, if they click, it could be unbelievable, and they have shown signs of it. I mean, at the beginning of the season, you would be expecting them to be up there right now after the way they started. So
we thought that, didn't we? We were saying 3-horse title race. It's going to be a great title race, and then it's fallen apart on the wayside for Chelsea. It's not that they've been losing games. It's they've been drawing too many games, to be fair. So, like you said, they haven't clicked fully, but they've got all the quality and all the talent there to actually click. It's just them trying to getting that together. Like Lukaku, they could get him firing. Then who knows? They could really go somewhere. Werner, everyone knows his problems in terms of up top, but we all have seen how good he can be. And
let's not forget that when they were at their best, it was when they had Chilwell on the left and James on the right. The moment that Chilwell got injured and then James got injured was the moment that it all went downhill. So if Liverpool lost Trent and Robertson for a long period of time, they would probably struggle. Cancelo and Cancelo. Or Diaz or someone, I guess Man City may be a little bit different, but when you lose two of your key players, and they are key, even though they're fullbacks. They are key players.
That's the difference, though, between City and everybody else. City
Yeah,
can lose key players, and they've got other players who can come in and do the job for them. De Bruyne can be injured for a while. Yeah, they don't play as well without De Bruyne, but no
they
team
still win
would.
games. Yeah,
But they still are able to win games. They've got replacements in these positions. The fullbacks, Cancelo's been out or out. They've got Walker. The left back plays Zinchenko. They might play Cancelo. They might play Walker there. It varies. Defensive wise, they've got 4 centre halves who walk into a lot of teams. Midfield wise, again, you've got the likes of Rodri, Gundogan there. Fernandinho's like the third backup holding midfielder now for him, which isn't bad. I know he's getting on, but he'd still get into most Premier League sides in that holding role. And then you've got your front lot, which just don't, he can pick basically three or four out of like 7 quality players there, and he keeps them all happy. It seems no one else can do that really, and that's where Chelsea need to get to, and that's where Liverpool need to get to as well. Put your best 11s out, and it's tight, between them all. But where City just head and shoulders above is that strength in depth, and the other clubs probably need to work on that in the summer, I would say.
definitely. I completely agree.
Your favourite team next, Heath? Palace. So, again, Palace didn't really do much. I mean, they confirmed Jean-Philippe Mateta. Yeah, I've done a little bit of a French accent there by doing Jean-Philippe, just to show that I'm not a complete and utter dick against the French. They just made his loan deal into a perm, and then they signed Luke Plange from Derby for 1 million. So that was about it, and not really seen. But I think they loaned him back actually. So not really much gone on at Palace to be honest with you. Again, is Vieira happy where they are? I mean, the 26 points again. They've drawn a lot of games of Palace this season, not won that many, but I think I don't think clubs are sort of seeing them as being in that relegation battle. I think Vieira's doing a good job, because I think what people need to remember is how many players they lost at the end of last season. They had a lot of older players, and they've got rid of a lot of people off contract. Kept obviously key players. They've got some younger lads involved now, and they're not doing bad. I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think Vieira's doing a bad job. It's definitely one where they're having to change. But I reckon if you ask Palace fans, are they happy with where they're at this season at the moment? I think a lot of them would say, yeah.
I think the one place that they could probably fix is right back. I've got a friend who's a Palace season ticket holder, and Joel Ward, how he's still playing for Palace is ridiculous. But no, they've done very well to get Anderson very, very cheap, and he's been one of the standout players with Gay in centre back, and then they've got Gallagher firing from nowhere.
They won't have him next season.
They won't. But I mean, the fact is that they probably won't be too worried, because they have got 2 young stars in Eze and Elise that they can't wait to break out and get them going. And it looks like Zaha's sticking around still. I mean, every year he gets mentioned about moving on, but he's still there. That it's either people can't afford him, or Palace have kind of wooed him to stay. With the way that Vieira's managing the team.
Yeah, no, definitely so. So a bit of a sort of neither here or there for Palace, but
it's the same. It's the same as the Arsenal Brentford thing for me. Brighton, it's just they're happy.
They're happy with what they've got.
Yeah.
Everton, interesting one with Everton. They've obviously let go Lucas Digne. Lucas Digne is gone to Aston Villa, as we know, and then they've made some signings. Mikolenko from Dynamo Kiev. So they brought him in. So he's Ukrainian guys, left back basically. They brought him in to no doubt replace Digne. They signed young lad from Rangers, Nathan Patterson. Got El Ghazi on loan from Villa, probably something to do with the Digne deal. Van der Beek on loan from Man United, and then obviously they spent big 40 million supposedly, or up to that, on Dele Alli. I think they're only paying him a certain amount at first, and then that goes up with appearances. But so they've been busy at Everton. In terms of bringing people in. Obviously they brought in a new manager. I suppose that's the biggest signing, bringing in Frank Lampard, and we've already seen big win in the cup against Brentford. Yeah, they lost to Newcastle, where they were not very good there, but Newcastle resurgent. But then they've torn Leeds a new one at the weekend. So I think Lampard will get them up that table. I don't see them
Would
going
you?
down.
I know this is a hypothetical that you can't really get around, but had Everton not won on Saturday, do you not think that we would be looking at it, kind of thinking this was a bit of a, I know it's early days.
Yeah,
I think
no,
that
no,
result
definitely.
and the way the
Of course.
atmosphere was, it's similar to Villa and Newcastle. It's quite funny how you've got like three clubs who are kind of ever present in the Premier League, who, when their fans get up for it, blow teams away. But I do think that Mikalenko seems like, at first, I mean, I remember him a Football Manager, he's a good player, but I've heard some reports about people saying that they were shocked that he signed and that quality-wise, he was nowhere near. Patterson's obviously one for the future. And then you've got like Van der Beek and Dele Alli, who are basically the same kind of, a similar kind of midfielder. I know Van der Beek could probably go deeper, or I suppose Ali could go deeper maybe, but I think that they could do well. I just think it's,
I think Van der Beek will be the better signing for them than Dele Alli for this season, because I think they both obviously got something to prove, but I don't know. I mean, I watched Dele Alli in that Newcastle game, and he was just so far off the pace. He gave the ball away. He was nothing compared to where it was. Van der Beek played the full 90 against Leeds. Looked busy. Didn't sort of get any sort of assists or anything, but when I saw him get a chance for United, he always looked busy, always wanting the ball and try and make things happen. But he seemed to work hard as well. I think with Everton, they may still struggle away from home, but I think they'll be good. They'll start winning games at home. The crowd will be behind Lampard and the team, and I think with Everton, it's one of those where the jury's probably a bit out on the transfer window. Are these players going to be good enough? Are they going to come in and make the difference? I think the biggest piece of business they did was bringing in Frank Lampard. I think it's a good signing for them as a manager, and he can do really good things for them. Really do. I like Lampard. I think he's good as a player. When you hear him talk, he's passionate. You watch him on the sidelines. He celebrates every goal like he's in the crowd. It's which is good. You want to see that sort of passion. So yeah, but jury out on the players signings, but thumbs up in terms of who they got in as manager.
They're a team on paper similar to Villa, that on paper they've made the right decisions. So, but we'll see. I mean, personally, I think that they'll be fine. I think they'll get themselves away from relegation. It won't be a problem, but it's just a fact of how they've structured these deals. And I mean, it does feel like Everton are kind of almost like that team who expect a lot without really having anything to back it up, really, for, definitely the last 10, 15 years. I don't understand why they expect to spend so much money every transfer window, because the same thing happens, really. So,
definitely. We'll see. Next two clubs, we won't really talk too much about, and this is no disrespect to those clubs, but there's no real outgoings or incomings. Leeds and Leicester, nothing of significance really going in or going out, to be fair. Again, probably happy they've Leeds, I mean, probably surprised that they didn't get people in, the amount of injuries they've had in, but everyone talks about Bielsa wanting a small squad, and he's always wanted that. So obviously he's happy with what he's got, and they had picked up some cheeky wins, hadn't they? I suppose they went to West Ham and won. There's still sort of enough there. You're thinking they could still get dragged into that sort of relegation. Well, they are still very close to the relegation battle. They're only 6 points clear of Norwich, so I think they'll just be hoping they get the players back like Phillips. He'll make a big difference from Leicester themselves. No one in, no one out. I mean, they're probably not as far up as they would have liked to have been. They wanted to be competing for the European spots again. They've obviously had a bit of a season in terms of, I suppose, seeing what they're going to do. The whole Vardy situation, he's not really playing, but I think I don't think Leicester fans are too upset at this moment in time. They're going to give Rodgers a bit of slack. He won him the FA Cup. He got him into Europe again. So I think with those two clubs, they've obviously not done much in the business, and they're clearly obviously happy with what they've got at this moment in time, or didn't feel that what was out there was worth spending the money on.
No, definitely, yeah. I think with Leicester, they're they're not too far off it, really, in the sense of if they actually had their full strength team out, then they would be quite a force. But they've had a lot of injuries. I mean, both Leeds and Leicester both had injuries. But the fact is that I think Leeds have got an incredible coach, and he'll get the best out of the players he's got. I think Leicester have got a good coach, but I think that their players on paper are better, and therefore you could see Leicester having sometimes the seasons that they're having at the moment where they're struggling a little bit. Things just aren't falling into place like they have done maybe in previous seasons.
Yeah, definitely. Liverpool, big signing for them, Luis Diaz from Porto. Seen him in a couple of games. Looks very lively. And this is the sort of thing I'm talking about when I say Liverpool need to strengthen in depth. That's the sort of signing. Another forward now. So now they've got Mane, Salah, Jota, Firmino, and this Diaz. That's your five. So you're picking three of those five as your front three. And that's what you need to start competing with City. And so far, like I said, he's looked very lively, dangerous. If he continues like that, he's going to cause problems for a lot of teams. I think that's a good signing for Liverpool. And I think, they now need to be looking at, strengthening up the other areas as well, because that front five, you've got three great people to pick from there, to be honest with you. So, I think really good signing from Liverpool, good window for them. Not sold anyone, but they've added someone in. And I think somebody who probably other teams might have been pushing in for come summer, so they've got ahead of the game and secured it. So, good from them, I think. Man City, they got rid of Ferran Torres, which I think, they didn't need him. They got 50. I don't know how Barcelona afforded 55.2 million. I didn't think they had any money. Obviously do. And then they've obviously done some pre-business for next season. That Alvarez from River Plate, who's meant to be, a good find. I think they've loaned him back. But, City, did they need anyone? Maybe did they need a striker? Some people still say but they don't seem to need it in the Premier League because they're spanking that, and they don't seem to need it in the Champions League because they're winning 5-0 at the moment as well away at Sporting. So I think they can trust Pep to get things right for them. They were very close to the Champions League last year, losing in final. Anyone can lose in the final, to be fair, but they're looking like a solid team to get there again this year, I would say. So I think City, not much to say about them. They're just going to carry on doing what they're doing, aren't they? Man United, I mean, they didn't bring anyone in. Were they expected to bring people in? I don't know. They got rid of a lot on loan. Van der Beek, Martial, Twanzebe. I don't know how to pronounce that, but they didn't really do much in the window themselves. They just don't have that fluency as a team, do they? But what's the problem? Is it Ranyak? Is it the players? There's a lot of talk of there being no harmony in the dressing room, but Roy Keane always says they need more leaders there. But who knows? I'd say with United, it's probably best not to bring anyone else into that toxic environment if it's that bad at the moment. So who knows?
It kind of just feels like if they brought anyone in, they would struggle. Like there's
setting them up to fail.
Yeah, there seems to be too many players there with biggest egos, and they've just been bought for the most amount of money. I mean, the way that they bought Maguire, Ronaldo, who's the other player? I think there was someone else as well, where they basically went and bought them because Man City were just about to buy them. Sanchez, that was the other one. Alexis Sanchez.
Sancho's been looking a little bit better the last few games. He seems to be the United are starting to play a bit more like the way that I think suits his game a little bit more. So I think that which could help him. And we've seen that he's got quality as Sancho. I mean, he's I know Bundesliga is probably not it's not as difficult as the Premier League, but he was still getting some great numbers there, still showing qualities, and he's still got that quality. I think it's obviously he joined the team expecting to play in a certain way, didn't start playing in that way anymore, and it didn't work out for him. But he's been playing the last few more games. He's picked up a few goals, looked lively. So I think maybe it could be start of him actually getting a good run of games there, and hopefully showing the performances that'll get him close to that England squad which obviously was in the summer for the Euros. So
I mean, I just think Man United are a very funny club at the moment. The fans were looking to blame Woodward before to say that he was the exact reason why Man United were in this pickle. And he's now gone, and the blame now goes back to the Glazers. and it goes back to this guy and that guy. Just it. To be fair, I feel sorry for him in a way because I know people will say, "Well, yeah, but Man United had so many years of success." But the fact is, that it's still their football club. You know, it must be. It's so hard to see any football club. Like, look at Derby, for instance, going through what they're going through. Man United are going through something very different. Don't get me wrong, nowhere near as bad as Derby, but at the same time, they're still having issues with something at their club that they can't resolve.
Yeah.
And therefore it doesn't seem right. But how they resolve it, I don't know. I mean, do they, I mean, just look at Liverpool before. Liverpool had that exact same problem back in the day. They used to have too many prima donnas, too many players who were good on paper and then struggled when it came to actually winning anything. And they brought in a coach like Klopp who just turned it around. So it can be done.
Moves on to a big mover. Already seen some benefits from results. Newcastle, big signings. Kieran Trippier, probably the biggest sign, the best signing of them all. Chris Wood, Bruno Guimaraes from Lyon, Matt Targett on loan, Dan Burn from Brighton. So, 3 defenders there, a defensive midfielder, and then a striker. Everyone knew they needed to shore the threat defense. I mean, I think it's safe to say Kieran Trippier is a great signing for them. He's a great fantasy football signing as well because he takes set pieces, he scores goals, picked up a few free kicks. I know he's out injured now, and who knows when he might return. Hopefully not. It won't take too long. But he's played 4 games for Newcastle and he's got 26 points. 26 points in 4 games. And he only lasted 47 minutes in that 4th game because he then got injured. So 2 goals and 1 clean sheet. You've got to be sort of saying a lot of people were looking to get him in until he got his injury, I would expect, if they hadn't already got him in. Big signing from there. And obviously others, I don't think others are going to be massive fantasy league football points, but it's definitely been a good window for Newcastle. Good business. Got players who have proven and done well in the Premier League. I know that Bruno being the exception, but he was touted around by a lot of clubs. But Dan Burns done it in the Premier League. Matt Targett has, Chris Wood has, Kieran Trippier has. So they've not gone and signed a load of unknowns. They've gone and signed proven players who can hack it in the Premier League and have done. And I think that was a big thing for them. And the results, as we've already said, are showing that they have made inroads. They're already out the relegation zone, 4 points clear of it by just winning a few games, and that's it. There you go.
Yeah, I think it pains me to say this, but you would say that impact alone, they probably had the best window in the fact that they've won 3 games out of 4 since the window's finished. So the fact is that you have to give credit where it's due. Again, personally, just like Villa and Everton, I looked at it and I thought, on paper, that could be good, it could be not so good, but give credit where it's due. And Eddie Howe's got them playing football. And, I think that the thing about Newcastle is that whole idea of if you can get that crowd going, if you can get them believing, and the moment that Ashley walked out the door was the moment they started to believe again. And the atmosphere's been very different. And I think you said to me last week, do you think Newcastle can get into Europe next year? And I went, no. I'm actually thinking that potentially they could do because they've got a real good base of players that, like you say, if they have the momentum, but these are players that have played for clubs who maybe, like, no offense to Brighton or Burnley, but the fact is that they've taken a step up in the sense of size of the club. I know Brighton are having a good season, but size of the club, Newcastle are a big club on paper. They'll be excited where this can go. And if they can keep this run of results going, I mean, Jesus, they could be like, away from relegation and be looking top half of the table. You never know. But yeah, I think Trippier getting injured is a real big blow. But what a signing he was. I mean,
yeah,
I think when we did our predictions for Newcastle, and Trippier was one I shouted out, but I got to be honest with you, I did think that it was a long shot still, but that was like the first one in the door. Wow, fair play to them. But yeah, they've done well. They've done very well. And again, you don't know what they're going to do in the summer. I mean, what do they do? Do they go and replace Dan Burn and Matt Targett, or do they build on that and then replace some of the other players?
I mean, they've only got Target on loan at the moment, so I suppose that'll depend. But they build on it definitely. I think these players, like I said, proven in the Premier League. They can strengthen other areas. It's no disrespect to John Joe Shelby, but they could definitely improve that position. They've got options. Obviously, keeping Sam Maximin's going to be key for them. They stay up, which they're in a great position to now go and do that. They should be able to keep hold of him because they'll be saying, "Look, this is our plans." If they go down, he's going to go for sure. Someone will go and take him, either one of the top, the higher up Premier League sides. The Spurs or West Ham, Wolves. Anyone could sign that guy. Man United. He'd get into most sides. Barring probably Liverpool and City, or even, but he'd still not be out of place in those sides either. To be fair, so it's I think he's a big guy to keep hold of for Newcastle in the summer, especially if they stay up. I think they will do, and then they've got to grow and continue doing that. They keep get Callum Wilson fit. They've got a striker who can score goals. They've got Chris Wood as another option. So they've all of a sudden got a squad there which will be definitely capable of top half of the table, challenging for Europe maybe. And I mean, someone said one of the top pundits, I don't know if was it Souness or someone who said that they expect Newcastle to win a Premier League again before Man United next do. One of the big pundits was saying that the weekend. I forget which one. And you probably won't back against it at the moment if they stay up this season and can start investing. United aren't looking like a team who are going to win a Premier League anytime soon. And we all saw how quickly City were able to sort of eventually get there once they started, splashing the cash a bit. 4 or 5 seasons, and they were all of a sudden winning a Premier League sort of thing. So there you go. It's definitely capable. So yeah, watch out. And the tune are on the up. Don't know what accent that was, but
Oh, Scottish.
It was Scottish, wasn't it? Hey,
Hey.
laddie. Hey. Norwich didn't really do anything in the window, let a lot of players. The one surprise that let go Todd Cantwell to Bournemouth, I suppose it's not a surprise because he's not been playing, and I don't know why he's not been playing. Obviously, I think the rumours were that there'd been a fallout and everything, and then Smith's come over, obviously not decided he's not part of his plans, so they've loaned him to Bournemouth, which is a great signing for Bournemouth. But I mean, Norwich not bringing anyone in. Is Dean Smith happy with what he's got, or is it the fact they can't get anyone in? I know that he has seen some good results happening, but it's not enough. Obviously.
I think that they think that their club. I think they think that their squad is good enough to keep them up because they've spent a lot of money in the summer compared to normal seasons. So again, a bit like Grealish, a poorer version of that. They sold Buendia and then used the money and bought about 4 or 5 different players. I think they've got enough talent in that team in that squad to keep them up. They just needed the manager. Well, and I think they've got that with Dean Smith because they've been very good underneath Dean Smith. They've been competitive in every game. Like it's now very lazy of people to kind of say Norwich are definitely going to go down because the fact is that they've got results recently and they could still get results. They're not looking like that defeated team. Unfortunately, it looks like my team are that team at the moment. But anyway, the fact is that when it comes down to it, I think that Norwich, if Pukki actually got confidence, him and that Adam Ida up front, they potentially could stay up. They could. So it's a big shout, but the fact is that even the way they played against Man City the other day, they played with a belief that it was a team of who could go for it, not someone who just sat back and hoped for the best, which I think that maybe how it was previously under the old regime. So we'll see.
Again, decide to stick with what they've got and fair play. And another team who've done that, and probably rightly so. Southampton. They've again the Saints. They're having the 10th in the league at the moment. 29 points, not doing badly. They've got they've kept all the. I don't ever hear any rumours actually coming from anywhere saying that someone wants to go and buy Ward-Prowse. But I suppose if they brought on roll off subs into the Premier League, I think any team in the world would want to sign him for his set piece alone. But he's actually a very good footballer as well. I mean, they've kept hold of him. Obviously, they've got players who are playing well. Like Brozier up top on loan from Chelsea. I mean, it'd be if I was Southampton, I'd be sort of inquiring to try and sign him. But maybe Chelsea might be thinking, well, the Lukaku thing to try and get a bug up his ass, we'll bring Brozier back in the summer and say, look, this guy's going to be pushing you to start because he's hungry. But I think, Southampton, again, happy with what they've got. They're a decent side. They're not going to be going down or anything. They're not probably going to get Europe, I don't think, either. But, I think they're having a good season at the Saints.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only player you haven't mentioned there is Salisu, the centre half. He's having a great season. I know wasn't signed in the summer or in January, but I think sometimes
Hold of him again now.
Yes, I think sometimes you can kind of give someone a chance by letting someone else go. Similar to what we were talking about Aubameyang earlier. By letting Aubameyang go, you're then saying to Gabriel Martinelli, "You're my main man." I'm not necessarily playing him up front, but he knows he's got a much better chance of playing if Aubameyang's gone. So things like that, and I think that happened with Salisu, and he's had a good season. Yeah. He was brilliant at Watford earlier in the season. They absolutely they're a much better team, but he was a rock at the back. And then I saw he did the same against Man City a few weeks back, and against United, I think it was as well. But yeah, they're Southampton are one of those teams that they're a coupon buster, aren't they? Really, they can go away from home and get a result against one of the bigger teams, and then get battered by Leicester or something. You just never know what to
lose
expect.
9-0. Yeah, they can lose 9-0 a few times. And then I suppose a strange one. They've made a couple of signings like a few low Spurs, and I mean results have not been brilliant for them of late. At one point, they were looking odds on to be in that top 4 spot with the games in hand. I mean, I know they could still technically get up into that 4th spot, but they win all the games and no, they can't actually, because I think Arsenal have got plenty as well. But they don't even look like winning those games at the moment, and they made 2 signings. They obviously signed the pair from Juve, Bentancur on for a perm deal, and then Kulesevitsky, I think. God, I shouldn't have had a few wines before saying that. But yeah, on loan from Juventus, so midfielder and a winger now. I think, I don't know if you watch too much Italian football, but I've seen them both play for Juve and both look good players. But obviously, Juve let him go for a reason. Didn't think that they needed him. So
Bentancur is meant to be very good, and I think Kulusevski, he's kind of one of those players where I think he was showing signs of being a top player a couple of years back, and then he went to Juve, and I just think he fell out of favour with the manager or something, and he just never really got a proper run. And he's come to Spurs to kind of get his career back on track, but I don't know. I'm not convinced of that. Bentancur, I think, could be very good. It's always good to get a calming kind of midfield influence, in the middle of a team. But
if he could be like what Dembele was for them, I mean, how good was Dembele? I mean, if I don't think you could find too many players who play in that position who was as calm as he was on the ball, as skillful as he was, and could just dictate a game. He wasn't a brilliant fantasy football player because he didn't score that many points, but he'd control games, sort of thing. And I think, if he could be that sort of thing, Spurs have been missing that type of player. That's when they were looking really good with players like that. And then they had the Ericssons and the Dele Alli's in good form, and Kane up top, and Son, doing the thing. And if he can help that sort of materialize, and he's going to have an enforcer next to him if with Højbjerg probably, so who's not actually a bad footballer himself. Spurs, I'm sure, Spurs are probably realizing it's a big dogfight for that top 4 spot. You only need to go on a good run, and you're probably in there, and you go on a bad run, and then all of a sudden you're in 7th or 8th. So it's tight, and it'll go to the wire. But I think we'll see the best of Conte and Spurs probably after this next summer, when he can get to implement a bit more of his style and get more players in. Really, I think getting rid of Dele Alli, I think it is good business for him. I'm not saying he was detrimental in the changing room and stuff, but I think it was good for him and good for the club for them to sort of get hands exactly. And the amount of talent that lad's got, he needs to be playing, and he needed a fresh start. So see if that happens. So I think it's a wait and see whether Spurs had a good window. I suppose if they come 4th, good window. If they don't come 4th, well, it wasn't good enough, the window for them. That'll probably be the case. Do you want to talk about your boys, or should we just bypass them? I mean, you signed 4 players, 4 pretty much unheard of players. One from Udinese, one from Nice, one from Bordeaux, and one from Eupen. Which league are Eupen in?
Which player was that?
Ido Kayembe.
But I think he came from Belgium,
Oh,
maybe.
God. Well, so Watford have gone to sign a load of unknowns, really, to be honest
That's
with
what
you.
we do, though. Like, look at our squad, all right? Out of all of our squad right now, just look at that group
There
of
isn't many
players.
knowns.
How many did you know before we signed them? That's our business model. That's how we
Josh
compete.
King? No, Josh King. Everyone knows Josh King.
Yeah, obviously there are some that you did know.
Danny Rose, he's well known. Yeah, Musa Sissoko, he's a World Cup winner, is Musa. I mean, God, he's your second top. He's your second top fantasy scorer in the midfield, which is terrible considering he only gets 2 points a game. So your midfield really needs to start pulling up a few more trees, I think, son. But
it's depressing, obviously, at the moment, because at the moment I feel like we're the opposite of Newcastle. It's like I felt like we kind of like signed players that we needed, and we went under the radar, and we just needed the results. We didn't get the results.
Yeah. I know you should blame. You should blame Udinese because, right, the last time when you were in the Premier League and you got to the FA Cup final and that, and you got all these good players from Udinese because they were doing well, but they're obviously now not as good in the Serie A. They're not as good in the Italian league, and they're not producing the players for you to go and steal. So that model is now failing you. You need,
if
to
anything,
find
they're
better.
stealing from us because they've got
Well,
Delafeo over there.
Something must be wrong with you guys if you don't think he's still good enough, or he must have gone really downhill. Maybe, I don't know, but
No, it was more the fact of because we got relegated. He wants to play top flight football somewhere else, which is completely understandable. He shouldn't be playing. He's not a player that should be playing the Championship. But yeah, we've I think we, on paper, I think that although that people haven't heard about these players, Samir and Kamara have both come in and been very good for us. I know that we're struggling and we're nearer the bottom. Kayembe has been very good, and I think this Kalu is meant to be similar to Dennis. But the thing is that for us, it's all about Sarr. He's just come back from AFCON. He's come back from a nasty injury from November. Again, you take some of the teams around us. You take out St. Maximan from Newcastle for a long period of time, they'd be struggling. You take out Cornet, Burnley, they would be struggling. There's lots of very good players down there that if you take them out of their respective team, well, just look at Leeds and Calvin Phillips, for example, or Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison at Everton, Yerry Mina. So what I'm saying is that, our best player by a country mile has been out for 2-3 months.
And so you're a one-man team.
To a certain extent, yeah. But at the same time, I just think it just shows you that the rest of the players haven't stepped up.
Big question. Is Roy going to keep you up?
Probably not, but
you're right. He's not. I'm glad you said that.
I can't really. I think that for a part of me, I was kind of hoping that, him having the experience, he'd be able to do it, and that he would know how to coach weaker players into being better players. The problem is, what I wasn't expecting was for the teams.
Miracles, Heath. He can't perform miracles.
But he did perform miracles at Palace and Fulham. And
but Palace had better players. Fulham had better players. West Brom, maybe not, but
I don't know how you can define what a good or bad player is, when they're from different.
I'm a football fan. I'm an expert, like all football fans.
Yeah, because but I mean, ultimately, if Watford stay up this season, then some of these players might be looked at like the way that you're looking at Palace and Fulham. I just think that for me personally, I just think that we have got a very good group of individuals. We just don't have a very good team. And that is the reason why we're miles off it. And the fact is, in the Premiership, you really cannot have that. You need to have a good team, and you need to have a star player or two. Yeah, honestly, yeah. Anyway, so I'd say the transfer window on paper is good because we solved a lot of problems, but I do think that we had too many problems and we couldn't solve them all. So realistically, again, Watford fans will probably say, why don't we get a goalkeeper? Why don't we get, another centre back? But that is what it is.
Yeah.
It's
No,
difficult.
fair enough, pal. Fair enough. Onto a club where I reckon a lot of fans are heard a lot of fans and pundits complaining about this club's inactivity in the transfer window, especially if they're going to push for top four, which they've got a big chance of doing it, but they need the strength in depth. Now West Ham, no activity, nobody came in. They loaned out a few sort of players who aren't in and around the squad. I mean, I was surprised they didn't go and get someone. Obviously United were never going to let Lingard go there because they saw what he did last year. They don't want him to go and do that for West Ham and stop them from getting top four. And obviously they had the Martial thing, and they probably knew about the Greenwood thing as well a bit, in a bit more time before the whole media got a hold of it as well, maybe. So another couple of reasons why they weren't going to let him go, but West Ham not going out for anyone. They haven't got a spare striker for Antonio. They could have done with another person. Bowen's in great form. Yeah, they'll get Benrahma back from AFCON. Fornells, Lanzini was a bit injury prone. Could have done someone else there. If Declan Rice gets injured, yeah, they've got Souček, but Declan Rice is massive. A few seasons ago, and I put it in our uni group, and I was not saying I rated Declan Rice as much, and Brad in our uni group was sort of like saying you're blind sort of thing. And I tell you what, I was blind because I watch him now and he's becoming a right player. I mean, without him that have been out of the FA Cup to Kidderminster, he comes on, he's not, I think what he's adding to his game is now that he's actually bombing on a bit more. He's making some driving runs. He's got skill, he's got quality on the ball, his work rate's good. Him and Calvin Phillips were both great in the Euros. I thought Calvin Phillips probably shone a bit more than Declan at the time, but this season Declan Rice has really come into his own, and they'll do well to keep holding him next season at the end of the summer. I think Chelsea could be nailed on for him maybe, but yeah, shocked they didn't bring anyone in. I think a bad move from them personally. That you might think it's different or they're showing faith, but if you're really going for that top four spot, we've seen it happen. What happened at Leicester last year? They looked primed for that top four, got a few injuries, didn't have the strength in depth, and they capitulated. And West Ham, it could just happen to them as well. They're going to need a lot of luck. They're obviously not winning as many as they were doing. United winning. They've got clubs behind them with games in hand. I just don't see why they didn't strengthen in depth, really. Get a few fantasy scorers in there. I suppose who could they have got? But I mean, there was plenty of options out there, I think.
Yeah, I think that they were obviously disappointed. I just think that the Lingard one is like they're basically kind of pushed themselves too far that they couldn't really get him. If they were down the bottom again, they probably would have allowed him to go. But they're funny again because again, it's another one of those ones where you're like, I mean, strikers, they need a striker, a proper striker. I mean, Antonio's been brilliant for them, but the guy is like basically always seems to be about 70% fit. I know it sounds disrespectful because the fact is the guy has been brilliant this season, but recently he seems to have gone very quiet and they're relying on Jarrod Bowen way too much. And like you say, Declan Rice and Bowen and some of their defenders, and even like I thought Soufal looked a bit suspect the other day. He looks a bit vulnerable from nowhere. He was kind of allowing players to go past him quite easily. So I guess it doesn't take that much for a team like West Ham to go from pushing for top four to getting sucked back into relegation because they had the similar players, and that's where they were a couple of years ago. So I think it would have been a prime situation to have done what Villa did. Villa being quite far away from relegation, then kind of thinking, well, this is our chance to get someone of Coutinho's class in there.
They could have done that. God, if they get top four, it's a massive, massive financial windfall getting up to the Champions League. You don't even have to do well in the Champions League. You get into the group stage, and you get some really good money from it. And you get those big European nights, which West Ham haven't had. I mean, they're doing well in the Europa League, so that they have got European football. But you go to that Champions League, it's another level, and also it means you can attract players, and you could maybe keep a player who's like your best player. Declan Rice. If West Ham get into that top four spot this season, There is no way he ends up going to Chelsea or one of the others, most likely Chelsea, unless City wanted to go for him or United. I mean, they could all go for him because he's good enough. But he doesn't go there if they get Champions League this season, at the end of this season, because he's a West Ham lad there. He'll want to do it and have a go at the Champions League with West Ham if he can do. If they don't get there, they could lose it. And making those few signings could have really just could make the difference. I don't think that I got Coutinho over Villa because Coutinho's obviously the Gerrard connection, but they should have been in for someone like that. That's for sure. Or finding other players like that. I know they've got full backs and that, but Kieran Trippier, quality player, could have been someone good for them as well. They could have signed him. They could have, added in, I mean, Dele Alli's a gamble. Could have maybe him, Donny van der Beek on loan, a gamble, but again, added strength. Could add that strength in depth for them. So, yeah, I think it's a thumbs down for them. If they make top four, they've obviously proved everyone wrong, but I think they've made it a lot more difficult for themselves by not strengthening.
Yeah, actually, I agree with you, to be honest. If they'd have got a striker, even if they'd have gone out there and got a championship striker, someone who could come in, like that Ben Brereton Diaz or even like Mitrovic. I know it's going to sound a bit crazy. That Carvalho, Fulham, someone who could push Antonio. Like, doesn't necessarily need to be a starting player, but someone's going to push him again.
And then you can bring him in. Yeah, nah, exactly. So, but yeah, not good for them, I think. But hopefully they continue to try and push for that top four. It'd be great to see them do it because I think I'd rather out the clubs that are going for that top four spot. I'd rather see someone like a West Ham or a Wolves or even an Arsenal this year do it because I prefer them to the ever failing and flaunting Man United and Spurs at the moment. So yeah, no, fair enough. Wolves, going on to them, final team in the transfer window. They've obviously, I mean, they signed a few players, not big names. Wang Hee-chan, obviously, they've had him on loan, so they've signed him on board as well. And then they signed a couple of players who they've sort of loaned back out. So they've not done loads. They got rid of Adama Traore, went to Barcelona on loan. Wasn't too surprised with that. Obviously, there was a lot of talk of Spurs taking him, but that didn't happen. But, I mean, Wolves at the moment, they're solid in the way they play. They've got, they don't have really a superstar as such. I mean, Jimenez, yeah, great, really good, and hopefully he can get back to that quality form he was on before his injury. They've got quality footballers in Moutinho and Neves in there. Opponents are good. They do lack goals, but they're very solid at the back. They can keep clean sheets. They've got they've got Conor Cody, a great captain. They play three at the back. They know how to play three at the back as well. They're not a team. They're no mugs. No team gives them a spanking. They've played away at Liverpool and City and only got beat by the odd goal. They probably didn't. They're probably another side, like we've said about a lot. They're happy with what they've got. They don't need anything more at this moment in time. They'll assess what they're doing well in the league, assess where they're at in the summer, and then look to try and strengthen areas at that. But they don't need to go out and spend over the odds for something they don't need at the moment.
No, that's right. And I mean, yeah, I think they've got where they got Bruno Larger, and they've got Sarr in goal. I think they've been really clever. They've given Kilman and kept him going.
Yeah,
they've got
their business in the summer, didn't they?
Business. And I think that they've kind of what they've done is they've kept faith in some of the players that we were thinking may not, like Aït-Nouri and Marcel, the fullbacks. That these players where you saw Doherty going to Spurs, you thought, oh, okay, well, that will really weaken. Wolves. Well, they got Semedo instead. It's like I'm not saying that these players have changed Wolves, as a club or anything like that, but I think they just seem to be getting a lot of small things right, and therefore that's pushed them from being mid-table to potentially a European team again. Yeah, I know that they were technically in Europe, but they got there the way they got there, whereas now it feels like they are a consistent pusher for Europe.
I suppose I agree with you completely. I suppose the only thing I'm thinking, are we being hypocrites here by saying, well, why aren't Wolves gone for it when they're in with a chance at top four? But West Ham, obviously,
Yeah,
we're saying should have gone for it. Maybe some people might think like that. Wolves have got 2 games in hand on West Ham and Man United. They can go above West Ham and draw level on points with Man United if they
it's
win
weird
them. But
because where West Ham have got the proper, I don't know, so they've got a lot of unknown players that on paper are meant to be very good, like that Trincao, who's meant to be very good, but he hasn't really proved it. Huang, who showed signs at the beginning of the season.
yeah,
So it's like, I think the difference between West Ham and Wolves is that West Ham have got a squad of probably like 14, 15 players that if they play that squad every week, they'll do well.
yeah,
They lose 2 or 3 of those players, they're struggling. I think Wolves are more in the Man City category of like, they seem to have a lot of their bases covered with their squad players being happy to accept being on the bench and then coming in and making an impact, even though they're not star players. But like, I think getting rid of Traore is a really funny one because you could say he was arguably one of their best players on paper, but the fact is that
different, but he doesn't deliver, does he?
exactly, and therefore they've given him enough time. And the moment Barcelona comes calling,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
you go. But
I think as well. Wolves are somewhere where people wouldn't have expected. I mean, you got the 6 teams above them. You'd have expected all 6 of them to be above Wolves at this stage of the season. You'd have expected Spurs to be above them. Leicester, you'd have expected them to be above them as well. So you'd have probably expected Wolves to be in between sort of the 9th and 12th spots in the league at this point of the season, most likely. That's where people would have probably put them. Well, that's where I would have put them. You probably would have put Everton to be above them probably this season as well. So, they're obviously, at the moment, batting above where people would have anticipated them being. And maybe, like I said, what they're doing at the moment is working for them. So, why change it massively? They're in half decent form. I suppose that's where the difference for me is with them and with West Ham. Wolves have won 4 of the last 5. West Ham have won 2, lost 2 and drawn 1. So West Ham's form's a bit more hit and miss at the moment, and I think that's where they need to start pushing. Wolves are in good form at the moment, so it's another reason probably why we think slightly differently. But yeah, it's be interesting to see. The transfer window's gone. Everyone's got what they've got now, and it'll be we've got a top 4 race to see. We've got a relegation battle to see. Liverpool, they're doing the best at the moment. They've won the last 4. They've not had a bad time without Salah and Mane. They've gone and won the games. So, done what they needed to do. They're gonna have to win the game in hand, and they need to beat City and hope City drop some more points as well. So it's gonna be tough, but which I don't think they'll quite manage. Yeah, we'll see what happens. The last sort of 12, 13 games.
so out of that whole chat, who do you think had the best transfer window?
Newcastle. I think
Probably just because, I mean, the thing is that if you'd have asked me that before they'd won those 3 games in a row, I wouldn't have said them at all. But because they've won those 3 games in a row, you're kind of going, yeah. But there are a lot of teams that haven't done much after we've gone through that.
No, there hasn't. No, there hasn't been. There's not been lots and lots of business. Liverpool, I think, great bit of business getting Diaz in. There's a lot of Villa. Coutinho is going to be a great signing for them. Hopefully, I would expect. But yeah, a lot of teams haven't done loads of business. But I think what you want when you do business in January, you do want to see that instant sort of response. And Newcastle have got that. They've won the last 3 games, and that's what you expect when you go and do a bit of business, which they've done. They've done more business than most, and they're seeing the rewards for it at this moment in time with 3 wins in a row. Look, 3 wins ago, take those 3 wins away, right? The bottom of the league on 12 points. They've won 3 games in a row. They're on 21 points and out of the relegation zone. So it's instant sort of success. Yeah, they've got to maintain it. But 3 games ago, they were dead and buried on 12 points. So I think it's a big. They've clearly had the best transfer window at this point. Come end of season, it might be different. We can say, well, who actually did have the best January transfer window? But right now, from what we can see on paper, they're the ones, aren't they? And you're gonna anyone should really, really struggle not to agree with us on that, because it's the results are there in black and white. They've won the last 3 games.
I think
Only Liverpool have done that or better.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, that I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like we've got a lot off our chest there. Like I say, we've been able to go through each team there and summarize and really look at each individual team, and I suppose give people some ideas of what they should be, maybe looking for FPL and I guess the team in general. I think it looks like it's safe to say we probably both agree on Newcastle being the stars of the window, even though they didn't go out there and spend billions like people were jokingly hinting at, and there was no Mbappe's or Messi's. But overall, they were clever with what they did, and they, like you say, we've got that instant impact. But the theme of the content teams who held on to their squad, didn't sell anyone, but didn't buy anyone, was there. And like I say, come the end of the season, some of them might be regretting that. Some might not, so we'll find out later.
I think, backs up like what I've said, I think in previous things, I think we actually had a chat about it in a previous podcast where we said, I think you asked me, would I scrap the January transfer window? And I think I said, yeah. I think I'd sort of, put a transfer window until like middle of September, and then that's it. You're done for the season, but the January transfer window is good. It's good for FPL, I would imagine, as well. But like I said, a lot of big clubs, unless they desperately need something now, they're staying out of it. United did it with Bruno Fernandes a few years ago. We've seen other great January transfers, which we did again a bit of a section on previously. Yeah, it's been quiet for a lot of the top sides, but they're obviously in a place where they don't need it, and yeah, there you go. So, well, I think it's been it's been interesting to see what's happened. Yeah, and like I said, I'm pretty sure we could do a reassessment at the end of the season and say, well, actually, we were badly wrong about that.
Well, it's definitely what we thought was going to be a nice little special for you guys to listen to, and just to remind you of our Twitter handles. You got State, who's FPL_Northerner. I'm FPL Southerner, and then you've got the North versus South podcast. The Twitter page is FPL NvS. So, guys, if you've got any issues with what we said tonight and you want to add anything, or you want to kind of challenge anything that was said, then we're all ears. Let us know on Twitter. But yeah, from me, it's a goodbye.
Goodbye. Enjoy.